Hi, this is George with NS345. Welcome back. This is video number 11. On the last video, I went over some basic mix bus processing. In this video, I hope to finalize this mix in preparation for mastering. So I just want to show you my workflow. I recently downloaded Studio One 3 Professional, and I'm using the mastering section of Studio One to master my tracks, which has really made my mastering more efficient. Initially, previously I was mastering in Pro Tools within the same within the same session, and that was working out okay because I can make tweaks and stuff on the spot, on the fly, to fix my master track. But I really enjoy using Studio One Pro 3 because I'm actually going out of Pro Tools, completely closing out the session, and just opening up the mix down in Studio One. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm also going to show you how I would set up a mastering session in Pro Tools for a later video. Right now, I just want to talk about where the mix is, and I want to remove all of the mix bus processing. On the last video, I was trying to show you what I would do just to kind of get some good levels so I can show people my mix and just maybe share it online. But in reality, I wouldn't put any mix bus processing personally. You can, that's okay, depending on what you're doing, but this is my workflow. So this is where we are now with the mix bus processing.
Who are we to say it's wrong if he ain't around to sing his song? And who's gonna rock this town tonight?
So if you notice, my levels are hovering over minus 18 dBFS RMS, and that's exactly where I wanted this mix to be.
Who are we to say it's wrong?
That's with mix bus processing, so I really mix this song with very low levels. So I'm going to remove the mix bus processing, but I'm not going to touch the tape machine. I'm going to leave that there because I like the tone that it gives the mix. I am going to remove the compression, the EQ, and the Slate FGX Virtual Mastering Console.
Who are we to say it's wrong?
You can now see that without that processing, my mix is just hovering around minus 21.
Who are we to say it's wrong if he ain't around to sing his song?
I'm going to remove all of these plugins.
Who are we to say it's wrong if he ain't around?
Because I've already finished mixing this song, I'm just going to raise the levels here a little bit on my stems.
Who are we to say it's wrong if he ain't around to sing his song? And who's gonna rock this town tonight?
And actually, I don't really need to be at minus 18 dBFS. If it sounds good right there, why not?
Who are we to say it's wrong?
And I've actually done some automation on the track here. And I was messing around with that to make sure I knew what to show you, but I'm going to go ahead and delete the automation. What did I do? There's no automation left.
Let me tell you a story about a guitar picker.
Just going to raise the level of my stems.
Let me tell.
There's no automation, I thought. But they still came down. Make sure they're on... Excuse me.
Let me tell you a story about it. Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story about a guitar.
You know what? There's all my stems. Let me bring them in slowly, one by one.
He's never been in love, he never had no broken heart. And if you rack your brain and you still can't understand it, then you probably never will, 'cause your words are so far apart. Who are we to say he's wrong if he ain't around singing songs? And who's gonna rock this town tonight? Let me tell you a story about a guitar picker. He's never been in love, he never had. Let me tell you a story about a guitar picker. Let me tell you a story. He's never been in love, he never had a broken heart. And if you rack your brain and you still can't understand it, then you
Don't go telling her.
are.
Okay, let's just pretend this mix is good. I'm gonna save it here. Now I'm just gonna listen from the front all the way to the back, just to make sure I don't need any automation.
Let me tell you a story about a guitar picker. He's never been in love.
Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm gonna just put my head down and just let my ears do the listening. Okay.
Let me tell you a story about a guitar picker. He's never been in love, he never had a broken heart. And if you rack your brain and you still can't understand it,
Okay, this is probably not a really good song to show you automation on, so I'm just gonna skip that part. Look out for the next mixing series. I'm gonna go through automation on that one a lot more in detail. Again, between the time that I started doing these videos to now, I've learned a few things about how I do things, and looking back through the videos, I was able to realize that I can improve on some things. I consider myself to be between a beginner and an intermediate mixing person. I'm probably better at tracking than I am at mixing, and definitely a beginning in mastering. Definitely a beginner in mastering. So okay, so now we're happy with this mix, and we want to send it out for mastering, or we're gonna do the mastering ourselves. You can import the track back into Pro Tools and do the mastering here, or you can just create a brand new session so you can get that feeling on how mastering engineers actually do it. So for now, I'm just gonna do a mix down. The way I do the mix downs in Pro Tools 12.2 is by doing an offline bounce. If you don't have the offline bounce option, which I think became available in Pro Tools 11, then you can actually print the track. Printing the track is actually really nice because you can see the wave heights. You can see the dynamics, the visual dynamics of the actual wave height. You can see this word is gonna come to me. The amplitude of the wave. You can see the amplitude of the wave, and understand the dynamic range a little bit. Okay, I had to pull out my book to remember that word, the amplitude. Okay, so usually I'll go to the end here, and then I'll hold shift, and I'll go dot one dot to take me back to the intro. This is the section that I'm actually gonna bounce. Okay, so in Pro Tools 12.2, I hit Option Command Bravo, and I do a bounce. In this case, I'm gonna bounce the track at 16-bit 44.1 because those are the settings that were used. That's how the session is set up. The bit depth was at 16 and the sample rate at 44. Okay, and I'm gonna say import after bounce, and I'm gonna call this 01 dot mix down guitar picker. Okay, then I'm gonna choose. Typically, it goes to your bounce files folder within the session. Oftentimes, I send it to another folder depending on what I'm doing, like if I'm uploading it to SoundCloud or to YouTube. So I'm gonna look for my bounce files folder. I'm just gonna send it there. Okay, and this is gonna do a wave file and an MP3, and it's gonna add the wave file into here. You can also import it directly into iTunes, but I just wanted to come in here. So this is offline bouncing. You can see that it's bouncing the song at 3 times the normal speed that it would regularly bounce. So for example, if you were printing the track and it took you, say, 3 minutes, this is doing it in 1 minute. Offline bouncing is actually great for video. If you have like a 1 hour long video and you have the audio that goes with it, you bounce it, it's done in like 2 minutes, which is pretty neat. I'm gonna say new track. I'm not gonna say session start. I'm gonna say selection. That way it lines up the track with the actual selection that I made before bouncing. Hit OK. And here it is at the bottom. And if you double click here, It says 01 mix down. And I have other mixes up here, so I'm just going to bring it up here to compare. So let me. So this is what my mix down file looks like. It's not really fat like a master. See, if you look at this one, this obviously does have some dynamics, but you can see where it's actually cut off because of the compression or limiting that was done to it. And if you were to listen to this master compared to my mix, this is the master at the 0 at the unity gain mark. And if you look at the meter here, it's actually going over the 0 mark and showing the true peaks. Even if I reset it, it immediately goes over. Okay, and this is what my mix sounds like.
Now. Then you probably never will, 'cause your words are so far apart.
Big difference, right? That's okay, because that's just a mix. The main point that I want to send across right now is focus on getting a good balance on your mix. Don't focus about making it loud just yet. You know, get your target level, which is minus 18 dBFS, and focus on making everything sound cohesive, good with each other, the kick sounding good with the bass, the guitar sounding good with the vocals, and vice versa, just trying various combinations. You can see that my mix is very, I think it's quite dynamic. If you look at the waveform, they're not that fat just yet because they're not mastered or limited or compressed or squashed. But if you look at this actual mastered one, you can see where this was limited. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Okay, so now if you print it, if you don't know how to print a mix, let me explain to you what that is. Okay, so I have my mix bus here. So I'm gonna send this now, instead of to the mains or my monitors, I'm gonna route this to a new track, and I'm gonna call it print, and that's a stereo audio track. So I'm gonna say print, and then that goes out to the mains. So if I hit play, nothing happens. I have to put it in record mode. Nothing happens. So I have to actually do it, do the input monitoring, so you can hear it. Pro Tools 12.2, you don't actually have to put it on record because you now have the input monitoring option. But on any versions, earlier versions, you do have to put it on record and then set the input monitoring. I believe it's up here somewhere, and either editing where you editing where you can actually set the input monitoring for all the tracks at once. Then you probably never will, 'cause your words are so far apart. Okay, so let's print this track. And printing, all it means is we're recording it onto another track. Okay, just making sure. And I'm gonna hit record.
Let me tell you a story about a guitar picker.
Okay, so that's now printed. Um, I recommend you double click on here and rename this 01 print guitar, or you can call it a mix down. Let's just add the word print in there so we know what we did. Okay, so you have it printed on here, but you now need to get it onto a folder. So the way we do that is make sure it's selected. But wait, there's more. Before we do that, make sure that before you start printing, you do leave a few seconds before the start. You have you allow the mastering engineer, uh, who in this case is probably you, some space just to do any fades or anything like that, and some space at the end as well. Okay, so that's done. Double click. Now I'm gonna export this bounce, this print. There's two ways you can do it. My favorite is Option Command B, which is the wrong one. Option Command K. Shift Command K. There we go. I'm gonna say Shift Command K. Shift Command K. And I'm gonna make sure it's wave interleaved 24-bit. That's how it was recorded. And 44. And I'm gonna look for, let's see, rate to mix 8 audio files. No, I'm gonna go to bounce files. Okay, I'm gonna put it there. And I'm just gonna, nothing's gonna happen here. It's just gonna put the file in that folder. It's just gonna export the selected file. Okay, so that's done. All right, so you're done with the mix down. Now you know how to print it and how to offline bounce it. The other way that you can export it is by opening up the clip window, and you have it selected, and you can go here and say export clips as files. And for a later video, I'm going to show you how to bounce your stems so that you can give them to somebody to mix or to organize them for yourself. But this is the same thing. I hit Shift Command K and it exported, and it gave me the option for exporting it. All right. The file size says nothing's changed if you do an offline bounce and a printed bounce. The amplitude of the wave files is still the same. All right, so all that's left to do now is archive your session. In this case, just put it back to your main out. Put your mix bus back to your main outputs, and then say no input there. So now this is your print. You have it there. So if you ever want to reference your stuff, you can always go back. But you save your session, and now you can archive it or back it up somewhere else. But you're done with this session, and I would move on and never come back unless you want to go. You may have to make some changes when you start to master it. You may decide that you need to make some changes, and you may have to come back into the session and bounce it out again. One of the nice things about Studio One is that you can have the session open, and you can have the mastering session open as well. So while you're mastering, if you see that something's poking out, like the vocal's too loud, you can actually go back into the session and fix it, and then update the mastering session. That is really cool. I'm not too good with mixing in Studio One, so I'm sticking to mixing in Pro Tools for now. But I'm actually just leaving the Pro Tools session and the Studio One mastering session open. And then if I need to make a change, I just go into Pro Tools, bounce it out, and bring it back into Studio One. Anyways, so that's it for this mix series. I'm not going to do anything further. The next video is going to be a bonus video. Yes, you heard it right. Bonus video. On mastering, which is, I'm not good at mastering. I'm only learning, but I want to share what I know. So I'll go ahead and show you that on the next video, but I'm not going to prioritize the video because I want to keep going with my second mix series. I'm excited to do that mix series. If you want me to mix any of your songs and do a video on it, I would be glad to do so. Send me a link. You can send it to, or send me the stems. Send it to ns345 music@gmail.com. Again, that's ns345music@gmail.com, and I will do the video and give you the credit for providing the tracks. I'm sure the result will be pleasing to you. Okay, so I'm looking forward to Mix Series 2. I've already started, so head on over there to that Mix Series on the playlist. Make sure that You know how to change on the video in YouTube. There's a way where you could change it to where you could watch it in HD, so it looks a lot crispier and you can see the zoom ins a lot better. I'm also putting notes on the information section of the YouTube video, which is just below this video here. I always wanted to do that. Okay, thank you very much for watching. This is the end.